Hello, everyone, and a big warm welcome to Brave Beginnings, Easing the First Day Worries. I am Karina from Work+Play Hub. I'm your host for today, and I'm so glad you've joined us, whether you're here as a parent, as a carer, as an educator, or a little bit of all three. We know that those first days feelings are very real and they can bring up big emotions for children and for adults too. So today we're going to explore how we can help children feel emotionally safe, confident, connected as they step into these new beginnings. And we are incredibly lucky to be joined by three inspiring speakers who bring real insight, heart, humor, and experience to this conversation. So let's get started. First up, we're going to have Eilidh MacDonald. She's a primary one teacher with a magic touch and a gift truly for supporting children and families during key transitions. And her work blends compassion, humor, and a lot of honesty. Let's hear from Eilidh.
I'm just going to I'm just going to share onto the screen. Hopefully you can see that. And then I'm just going to make it a bit bigger. Okay. So my name is Eilidh and I am a primary school teacher in Scotland. I graduated from Edinburgh University about 8 years ago. And in those 8 years, I've taught at 3 schools, 3 different councils. And over those 8 years and during some of my university time, I've taught from nursery to P7. So I've taught every year group now. But this is my 5th year of teaching P1 to 3. So I teach in a really small rural school and I'm teaching a mixed composite class. But I've had P1 intakes for the past 4 years and I've just finished my last P1 transition in this year's one. So that's a bit about me. Personally, I am a champion for play-based learning, inclusion and neurodivergence in schools, and just really high quality teaching experiences for children. I think these are sort of the 3 things that sum me up as a teacher, and the things that I really have based a lot of my training and sort of specialism on nowadays. So for my little 5-10 minute session, I just want to talk about dealing with some of the big emotions that come around starting school, some practical tips for the school day, and some things that parents can do at home over the next 6 weeks over the holidays before their child starts school, and hopefully just a bit of encouragement and a bit of understanding that so many parents are in the same boat just now, and it is really, really scary, and that's okay. My sort of disclaimer there at the top is that every child is different and every child comes to school with different experiences and ability. I don't really believe in school readiness. I think every child is ready for school once they finish their time at nursery. Whether they're ready to learn is different, and the school will always meet them there and help them to be ready to learn in whatever it is they need to learn. I don't think that children should meet school standards. I think schools should meet where children are, if that makes sense. And while I'm talking, if anyone has any questions, if you can just put it into the little chat or keep it till the end, because I am very, very easily distracted and will lose my train of thought massively. So in terms of what P1 is like these days, it's very, very different to how it used to be, I think. And I think the understanding needs to shift a little bit from P1 being the start of an entire new level of learning for children, because it is the start of their primary school career, but it's a continuation of nursery learning. And if you look here, just in case anyone doesn't already know this, nursery and P1 are early level. They are the same level. So P1 is just a continuation of that. And after P1, they then go on to first level. So round about Christmas time or the first parents' night, a lot of parents will hear that their child is either on track or not on track for early level, achieving early level. And teachers talk about achieving early level a lot, but really what that just means is, have they learned everything in nursery and P1 that is in the early level curriculum? And if they haven't yet, it'll just be that they continue early level in P2 until they achieve it, and then they begin first level. So some children are behind for 6 months and then they catch up, and it just depends where they are again in their learning. It's not a test. They don't need to pass a test to pass early level. So it's just really important to think of P1 as an extension of nursery, but inside school. And P1 is all about play nowadays, and most schools have really, really embraced play and giving children, like I say, that extension from nursery, because if they go straight from nursery where everything's very, very free flow and very play based, and they have their own autonomy to choose what they want to do, and then they go straight into P1 and it's very, very formal and very, very structured, it's really, really difficult. And I think we've really moved away from that. Now, as they get further up the school, the weight of play and formal learning changes, but it changes quite slowly. And nowadays there are schools that are entirely play-based all the way up to P7, who are doing really, really well. So most schools are embracing play. And just in terms of some parents are a bit worried that they'll go to school and get the shock of their lives. They do for different reasons, but not so much for the formal learning. There is a bit more, but it's still a continuation of nursery, which I think is really important to understand. And it's just a little overview of all the curricular areas that are in the curriculum for excellence. The three big ones I find are phonics, numeracy skills, and outdoor play and outdoor learning and play. So phonics is its whole other rabbit hole of do's and don'ts, and it's definitely something that parents can get a bit confused about because there's so many phonics schemes, but generally it's all the same thing. Learning to read and write and learning all the sounds, same as numeracy. It's a very, very practical, very hands-on, and there's a big weight on outdoor learning as well. So it's not so much about sitting still. It's very much about exploring learning in a more structured way than nursery, but still leaning into play and remembering that they're only 4 and 5 years old. So the big emotions that children and parents feel around the transition to P1, I think it's really important to just appreciate that it's really, really normal. For a lot of children, it's their first big transition that they can remember. They probably don't remember going into nursery, but they will remember going into P1. And it's a huge, huge change. And it's really, really normal to be nervous about it. You do have some children who just walk in like they've always been going to school and they don't even look back when they're saying goodbye to their parents. There definitely are those children, but they are quite rare. So the big emotions are normal. I think for parents to think of themselves as the map of their child's map of how to navigate their emotions and to model how to cope with the change. I do find that more anxious parents tend to have more anxious children. That's not quite a generalization, but I found that parents who are very, very anxious about the child starting P1, the child is very, very anxious. I think if they see you panicking, they see you struggling with it, they can find that they use you as an example, and then they panic and then they struggle. And it's sometimes just putting a brave face on, even if you don't feel it, but just pretending that you do, and just telling them that you're okay with this and you're being brave so they can be brave, and just being that model, because as a parent you are their person that they look to for how to manage their own emotions. And I think that goes with when it's time to say goodbye at the door, just having your one last hug and letting them go and not holding on. I've had to prize children off of parents before, and sometimes you have to say to the parent, you just need to leave the playground and let them come in. And I think sometimes the longer the parent holds on, the longer the child does as well. Obviously, another generalization, there are children that will need that support and sometimes need a parent to bring them into the building, and that definitely happens as well. But generally, if you can let go and show them that you're being brave, and you can let go and send them off into the building, then they will follow your lead with that. And 9 times out of 10, 5 minutes later, they're laughing and smiling, and they're very fickle sometimes. And that really comes with just trusting us and trusting the teachers. I think P1 teachers are generally the Miss Honeys of the teaching world. We are the huggers and the hand holders, and the ones that we teach P1 for a reason a lot of the time, and we really know how to tell if a child is very, very, very distressed and know what to do with it and know when to contact the parent as well. So I think that trust is really, really important. And I know if it's your first child at that school, or you don't know the school very well, you've not had a lot of transition time, it can be really hard to trust people that you don't know as an adult, but trying to hand that over and just trust that they'll be safe is really important. I've put some polls and some question boxes in my Instagram recently, and I've had loads of questions about comforters from home. And I would generally say to check with the teacher what they think about that. I don't tend to allow children to bring comforters from home. I just find that I've had that they've gotten lost or damaged, or something's been spilled on them, and it's been even more traumatic than not having them. And I have found that sometimes they have the opposite effect and can be quite distracting and remind them of home even more. And you kind of want them to be distracted by school, not distracted by home. But again, there are children who will need that support to even get in the building. And if that's the barrier, then we can meet them there. But I would check with the teacher, because different teachers will have different ideas of how they feel about that. Independence skills are a really, really big one for the next few weeks of getting ready for school. Practicing zips and Velcro and jumpers. A big one is if they take their jumper off and it's inside out, they do not have a clue what to do to get it back the right way around, and they stand and look very, very confused because they've never practiced, or an adult always does it for them. So practicing things like that, making sure their labels are on their clothing, because their jumper at home, when they're the only 5-year-old with a green jumper in the house, is very, very easy to identify. But when there are 35-year-olds with green jumpers, it's not so easy, and they don't know if it's a V-neck, and they don't know if it has cuffs, and they don't. I ask them these questions, and they look at me like I've got 5 heads, and they don't know what next is, and they don't know what M&S is, and a lot of the time they don't have a clue which one's there. So a lot of the time they smell them, but sometimes that's not doesn't always work. So practicing how to find their name label, how to know it's theirs, is really important. And same with eating, opening crisp packets and biscuit packets and things like that, opening Tupperware lids. There won't always be an adult right there to support with that. So practicing that at home is really important. I made a video about that recently, and lots of parents commented under it saying, I didn't even think to practice that over the summer. And it's not that an adult would let them not have their crisps open. An adult wouldn't let them starve, but it's a lot quicker for them if they can do it themselves. They will also be encouraged, if they're in the lunch hall, to use cutlery and to take their own tray around the lunch hall. So again, practicing anything like that is really helpful. And toileting too is a big one. A lot of children are coming to school more frequently not toilet trained, or less toilet trained than I found even a few years ago. So I think that's a really, really big one. Obviously, there are sometimes reasons why: sensory issues, neurodivergence. There's lots of reasons why toileting could still be something that's not quite come on yet, but for the most part, it's something that I would recommend to keep going with, because a lot of the time there's not an adult to be in the bathrooms with them. And I've found the most upset P1s get is when it comes to toileting, when they don't know what to do and they're stuck in a cubicle by themselves and they don't have someone to help them. So that seems to be a bit of a trigger. So I would definitely practice that as well. And school bag, these are some ideas of things to pop in there. A lot of children don't drink water and don't like water. I would practice drinking water at home. You can get those like fancy water bottles that make the water smell like things. Children love them, but they're very expensive. Lots of schools allow diluting juice, like a really, really, really weak squash. If the school doesn't allow that, I would recommend getting a water bottle that is not transparent, and no one needs to know that it's not water in there. Spares, I would always recommend a healthy snack as well. Some schools have quite lengthy snack policies, but generally just using common sense is helpful. And at the bottom there, it just says that the school bag will seem very, very empty at first, because it's more about getting used to the responsibility of having a school bag and putting things in it and keeping their own things in it and having something that's theirs that they bring to school and they remember in the morning and they zip up and they keep their things safe in, because for the next however many years they're going to have a school bag that they need to keep an eye on. So it will feel very, very empty, but it's more decorative in P1 than anything. And things they don't really need is any toys from home and pencil cases. I remember when I was in primary school, we used to go to WH Smith and buy everything from the stationery aisle and get our own brand new pencil case for the year. But we don't do that anymore. Schools have got everything that we need, and a lot of schools actually don't allow children to use their own pencil cases anyway. So I wouldn't bother with pencil cases. As fun as they are, I would keep them at home too. And lastly, over the next 6 weeks, there's a few things that you could be doing. I would definitely try to reduce screen time the closer to starting school they get. I understand that, and I'm not a parent, but I would be naive to think that you could survive 6 weeks of summer holidays with absolutely no screen time. I do know that, there's a lot of time to fill in the holidays, especially when it is raining most days in Edinburgh. But I would start to reduce that the closer they are to starting school, because there's sort of a thing going around online at the moment that says a lot of teachers can't tell whether a child, what is it? Something like, I can't tell whether your child was breastfed or bottle fed, but I can tell how much time they have on a screen or something like that. And it's really, when they start P1, you can see there's almost like a withdrawal happening that can be quite scary. And I think that is our world now. And I'm definitely not anti-screens. I just think if you can reduce that before starting school, that will help with a bit of anxiety and emotional regulation. So there's some things that I would do: a bit of mark making, some painting, drawing, anything that improves muscle tone in the fingers, any fine motor things, sharing and playing games and letting them lose, and actually even making them lose, because a lot of children come to me in P1 and say that they don't want to play a game unless they're going to win, and their peers find that very difficult. So practicing losing, practicing rules of games and turn taking is a really big one, and lots of reading at home. And I've got lots of Pinterest boards that I've made for muscle tone and mark making, and that I am going to share over the next few weeks. So I'll be putting them on my Instagram. So it might be worth keeping an eye on there. And I think that's all I have to say. Sorry for talking at everyone for 10 minutes, but that's pretty much a whip round tour of getting ready for P1. And those are my socials there if anyone wants to follow me and or send me an email, anything like that. It's a really, really scary time for parents and children, but it's such an exciting time for them. There's a reason why I chose to teach P1, because it's such a fun thing to get to guide them through, and they learn so much in the first year. You see the biggest difference than any other year group. Again, that can be quite scary for children because they feel like they're losing a baby, but they're just gaining a new little person who's learning so much, and it's really exciting. So that's everything from me. I'll just take that off, and thank you so much. If anyone's got any questions, you can ask me them now or pop them in an email or in the chat or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eilidh. That was amazing, and that was really, really informative. I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions. I'll just let them ask. I have a couple myself, but I'll wait until the end. If anybody has any questions for Eilidh, please you can ask them now. Okay, well, I'll get the ball rolling. Eilidh, deferral versus not deferral. This is, I'm sure you've been asked this question loads of times, but do you truly notice a difference, or do you think that kids that are deferred, do they gain that much more by staying at nursery for an extra year, or do you think that's not necessary?
That is definitely a question I am asked a lot. I am very pro deferral because I think that any extra playing, sharing, social skills, fine motor skills, outdoor play, gross motor play, I'm quite a believer that there's no harm in it. But I have taught children who've come to P1 aged 4 who have managed and coped just as well as their older peers. I said that to someone recently, a parent, and she said, well, I don't want my child to cope. I want them to thrive. And that's kind of, I would say that's where the sticking point is a little bit. 4-year-olds and younger children definitely manage in P1, but I'm always a fan of another year. There's a reason why other countries where children start later are so successful, and they have very, very happy, thriving, learning children. But the younger learners, they do manage, and I've definitely seen both sides. But if they're ever in doubt, I always say to defer. And I think nurseries now are becoming really good at being very, very honest with parents and saying very outright, I think you should defer. And I would always go with what the nursery suggests. But I am pro deferral. I was deferred and I think I'm a genius. So that's why.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Like I'm in no way a professional, but it just makes sense to allow them that extra year of maturing emotionally, and it just makes sense. So the other question I had for you is, you were talking about the fine motor skills that the children develop before going to P1. Do you feel like there's anything that parents can do or should focusing or not focus? Because I've heard both theories now. I've had I've heard or read people saying that the kids should be able to write their name in cursive, not capital letters. Is that a thing? Is that not a thing? How far do they need to go in their numeracy skills, for instance? Can you give your opinion on that?
I think, again, it kind of depends if the child is ready, but in the first few weeks of P1, it's all about name writing and practicing writing your name in lowercase, apart from the first letter. And I think if a child's ready to hold a pencil, then they should be trying to do it. I think though, if their pencil grip and their pincer sort of motor skills aren't there, then they just need to build them. So it really depends. That's such a vague answer, but it really depends on the child. I very much am keen for, if they are ready to write, then they should be trying to write. I don't see any harm. A lot of P1 children who are very ready to write, a lot of the time it is girls or children who are very crafty and very into like stickers and sticking and gluing and sellotaping. A lot of the time they're really ready to write and they just copy words that they see around. And I've always said to parents, if you see them asking about letters and asking about their name and asking how to write your name and asking to write in birthday cards, and that's kind of their sign that they're ready. And really it's just a lot of copying and practicing. But I'm not a huge fan of teaching children the whole alphabet before they get to P1. It's all going to be taught in P1 anyway, and it's quite nice just to give them some time to sort of let them live before they go and have all that thrown at them. But there are some general things: counting up to 10, 20, counting backwards, counting things, one-to-one correspondence is a really, really big one. Rolling dice and trying to recognize the number without counting them. That's a really big one. But again, everything's covered in P1, and there's not a lot of early level benchmarks to cover, and there's a whole year to do it. So a lot of it is repeated. And I would say what's more important is the excitement to write, and the being excited about books and being excited about writing, and realizing that when they make marks, they are making marks and it will mean something to someone else, and that connection is really important. And a big one is muscle tone in fingers. Again, that's quite a new thing. A lot of children coming to school with very, very poor muscle tone in their fingers, and that if they can't hold things or have the strength in their fingers for long enough to write a word, then we need to kind of go back to that. And that's a lot of playing with pegs and spray bottles and tweezers and peeling stickers off of things and peeling oranges, things that make their hands hurt, their fingers hurt. They're really good for all of that. But generally, I am quite a believer of just let it all happen at school, because it will all get covered there. And if they come with a bit of extra knowledge, great. And if they don't, then we will meet them where they are and where they're ready.
Great. No, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, the schools, I think that's shifting. The schools are getting more and more to the point where schools meet the children, not the children needing to meet the schools. And I think that's a really positive thing. Yeah, so thanks so much, Eilidh, for your expertise. Next, we're gonna have Saskia. I hope I'm saying your name well. Is that correct?
It's pretty close, Saskia. It's
Okay,
fine.
Saskia.
Either way, it's fine with me.
So Saskia, she's a very creative practitioner. She's a researcher. She has a new book out. It's amazing, by the way. And she works with children's voice, especially children's rights, children's participation, and she brings a very deep understanding on how to make children truly seen and truly heard. So yeah, Saskia, it's over to you now.
Wow. I just found a presentation I wouldn't mind sharing if that's okay. So
Sure.
Can I share my screen? Okay. Entire screen. And it doesn't let me share. Is that a problem?
It's not a problem.
Okay, no, I've worked it out. I've got it. I've worked it out. It takes me a bit of time with the old tech. Right. My name is Saskia Joss, and I am a therapist for children, and I specialize in working with children with anxiety. So now you can't see me, you can just see the thing, or you can also see me. Hold on. There we go. Can you see me? Is it working?
We can see the video up top, and then we see your screen.
Perfect. Okay, so that's working, and you can see what's on my screen now. Excellent. Okay, so I'm Saskia Joss. I'm a therapist for children. I specialize in working with children with anxiety, and anxiety does come up for children as they start school. It also comes up for parents. Exactly like Eilidh said, there's this kind of feeling of change in the air that makes people anxious. And the reason starting school makes children anxious is because it's a change. It's a big change. It might be that they're going to a new building they've never been to, so they don't know the place. It might be that they don't know the adults there. It might be that it feels very far away from their home. And on the screen, you should be able to see it says transitions can trigger our survival mechanisms. And the reason why is that when we feel like we might not know what's happening next, when we feel like what happens next could surprise us or be dangerous or be different from what we know, it will make us feel very anxious because we're trying to make sure that we're not in danger in a new place. So when we are given the chance to go to a new school or a new nursery or a new place, children will know, just like we do when we start at a new office or we go to a new mums group, that feeling of walking in and not knowing who can I talk to, who's in charge here, how does it work, if I need the loo, where's the loo, that thing that makes us feel uneasy in new places is exactly the thing that our children will be feeling when they start school. What are the rules here? What is this place? How does it work? How far away is it from my home? Who are these adults? How long will I be there? What will happen next? Is it similar to places I've been before? Where are the people that I know? And will I get the things that I need here? At my house, if I'm thirsty, I don't even have to say anything. My mum will give me a big cup of water, and she knows that I don't like it without that special air up bottle that makes it smell and taste of something nice. And at my house, I know that, if I'm hungry, I know that my mum has all the right snacks for me, and my dad makes those special biscuits that are in the kitchen. And I know that if I fall over and I hurt myself, someone will help me. And with our new places, when we go to a new school, if you're lucky enough to have such a kind teacher as Eilidh, when she just explained to us that, obviously she's providing that feeling immediately to children that they're in a safe place with someone sensible who wants to get to know them, who knows how to make it fun and nice, but the children don't know that yet. She's that person. She's going to put all those lovely things in place for your kid. I'm hoping the same will be in all the schools that your kids go to, but they don't know that yet. They don't know any of the problems that are facing them, whether they will or won't work for them. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to first build up a positive picture of what school is going to be like, where it is, what it looks like, how long they go there for, what kind of things happen there. And if you're lucky enough, like most schools will now do, like a day when you go in to have a look at the room with your child and your child's like, where are we? What is this? Take some photos so you can remind them later what it's like. And what we're trying to do is help our children understand where this new building is, this new place is in relation to the rest of their life. How far is it from home? How easy or hard is it to get home from there? What would happen if you needed to come home, for example? We also want them to know that the adults in that place are capable, that we're not planning to leave them somewhere where the adults there don't know what they're doing and haven't got skills, we're leaving them somewhere with adults who are really clever and really capable. And we're also leaving them in a place with lots of lovely things that they're going to enjoy. We're going to really say those things out loud so that children can understand them. We're going to try exactly, like you said before, to set up clear routines before school starts to help children manage better. And we're going to hold a space for fears and irregular behavior that will come as children go through change. So when I say we want to start with positive PR, so over the summer, you've got this lovely time between now and the summer. You may have even had time to go visit your school. There may be a chance to do, for example, a summer scheme at your school. They may have days in the summer where school is open. I would take big advantage of those things to start giving children this positive picture of a place that they're going to spend a lot of their time. And the things we're going to do are we're going to really explain to children that this is a happy place, that this is a safe place, and that as a parent, because you're clever and you know what you're doing, you wouldn't have chosen this school if it wasn't happy and safe and the kind of place that children want to go to. You can do positive PR for these things by literally telling the people that you know, like your grandmas, your aunties, your cousins, your best friends, in front of your children. Oh my gosh, did you hear that Jamie is going to this new amazing school? It is the school with the biggest playground. They've got a special room where if you hurt yourself, someone will help you. And it is really good fun. When we went there for our day, they had magnet tiles, they had a sand tray, they had water. He absolutely loved it, and we couldn't be more excited to be going there. So we're starting immediately to make this feeling that the place that we're planning to arrive at is a nice, fun, safe place. We also want parents to try and help children be ready to be there. So obviously we talked about going to the loo, and we talked about being able to do things like zips and buttons. But actually what we really want children, in addition to those things, to be able to do by themselves, is ask when they need help. How can children feel comfortable to ask when they need help? And if particularly with children with low speech, for example, do they know that they can just go up and tap the person on the arm and point at what they might need? Do they know that they can have, there are adults that are particularly useful for reading a book in the nursery or in the reception class? Or do they know where, like, who and where to make contact with if they need something they wouldn't have? So at home, we've got this feeling of like preempting children's needs. At school, it becomes less possible because there are just too many children to preempt everybody's needs. So children will, for the first time in some of their lives, have this sort of delayed moment where they need something and it isn't immediately given to them, mostly because the adults don't know that they need it. So if there's something that they need, we want them to say it out loud. And that's something we're trying to practice over the summer too, this feeling of like, you might even on purpose as a parent over the summer, hang back slightly, wait one more extra minute when you know they're thirsty, and see if they can come to you and tell you that they're thirsty, that they want a drink, that they need the loo, that they need a cuddle, that they can't reach something. And we want to practice how can they make their needs known to someone that doesn't know them. Like I've seen in lots of different contexts that children can come to school with very low speech in nursery or reception, and within literally a few weeks, they're talking quite regularly, more than they do at home, because no one's guessing what they want. They have to tell people. The other thing we're trying to do is help children understand the context of where they are. In the holiday, walk to your school from your house if you'd usually go in the walking, and go on the bus or go in the car, and show them how far away it is, what it will be like. Show them the photos you took on your visiting day. Talk to them about how long school is and compare it to other things they've done before. It's really the exact same time as nursery, or it's the same as nursery when you stayed for lunch, but then you're going to also stay for another 2 fun activities, I think, something like that. And then mum will be waiting to pick you up, or grandma's going to be waiting at the gate to pick you up. We're going to give context to help children hold in mind that where they are is not some alien universe far from what they know, but it's actually, it links very easily to all the things they already understand. Well, it's very similar to when I went to nursery, and it's very similar to play scheme. And the adults there remind me of my nursery key worker, and it's not far from my house, and I know that they have lots of footballs, which is something that I like. So over the summer, they can start sort of fitting this new world into its context. Just exactly like Eilidh said, we're trying to work on organizing children's brains and lives before they get to school so that it's not overwhelming. So obviously, children who sleep better will manage the transition more because they've got more energy in the tank to take to school with them. So try and make sure that your children are in a good sleep routine. Obviously, over the summer and in the hot weather, we might have sort of expanded our general rules for bedtime, and people are sort of, up at 9 o'clock at night with the fan on. That's not what, near the end of the summer, we're trying to put things in place that help children to have the most in the tank. make sure they're eating enough food on the way, like before they come to school or on the way to school if they find it hard to eat quickly in the morning, and give them a sense of ownership about the things that they have so that they feel excited. Look at your amazing uniform, or look at these really, really smart shoes we got for you from Primark in the centre of Edinburgh. We went specially to get them and it was so lovely and they fit you so beautifully. Wow, you're so smart. Consider diet and screen time, and whether it's actually hindering your children's ability to concentrate because they are eating too many foods that burn out quickly, so they haven't got energy to concentrate, and they're watching too many things with a sort of quick, flashy style on the TV, which means they lose an ability to sort of train their concentration. When you get to school and your child is panicking and worried, speak to your key worker and say, well, what do you usually do in this context? That their job, just like Eilidh said, exactly her job is to get 30 little people happily and safely into school every year. And I'd be pretty sure she does it. Look how incredibly thoughtful and sensible and kind she is. I'm sure she's doing it year on year with these amazing kids. And believe them, listen to them. When your key worker says, well, actually, we prefer if you drop them at the gate and then we walk them in. If that generally works for them, let them show you how they do it. And if you know your child really can't manage, wait and see, and then stand your ground based on what you've noticed, giving a little bit of time. My general feeling is, particularly if it's a brand new place, it usually takes somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks for children to begin to walk in without feeling anxious about it. I was a reception teacher for 3 years. I also had to work to get children into school that hadn't been to that school before. And the key was to make the environment feel happy and safe so that it feels positive to come in. If you notice that there's nothing your child likes in the classroom, and they're really, really into baking and there just isn't any baking, speak to the teacher. Say, I know you're busy and there's loads going on, but my kid's really a fan of baking. If I bring some digestives in and some food colouring, any chance we could do some biscuit decorating on one of your tables just to get him inside, so he's more likely to join in. Try and think, how do we make this place feel safe and happy and exciting? And just like Eilidh said before, if you think that your overwhelming feeling about it, which is that you're upset that they're going to school or you feel nervous about it, might make them feel nervous, maybe ask someone else to take them in after the first few days just to see, so they can see that it's all very easy to get inside without feeling worried. Your child, you might find that things about separation anxiety will come up. Things, for example, like being scared to be in a new place, being worried to be away from you, not knowing how they'll be looked after. So we're going to make sure that our children can hear that we know that they might find things difficult. We might not bring it up straight away, but when they start to find things difficult, we might say, what do you think it is about this new place? Because when I go there, it looks really lovely and the adults are so sensible and they're so kind. What are you missing? What do you need to know to be able to be happy and calm here? Ask your teacher to help you manage the things that come up, any small changes that need to be made, anything you need to help settle your child if it's really they're finding it difficult to bring something in from home for everyone to play with. I don't mean that they should hold something the whole day, but if there are things that might make your child settle after the first few weeks, if it still feels very tricky, speak to your class teacher, and expect irregular behaviour from your children. In the face of change, lots of children will bring out different parts of their personality. They might be tired and exhausted and moody when they get home. They might be a little bit withdrawn from taking in such a sort of sensory and different experience from what they've had. I would say give them a good 5 weeks to get it out of their system. And if you're still worried by October half term, I'm sure you can reach out to any of us and we would happily see if we can work out or help work out what it is that's meant that they haven't settled in properly. Mostly I find that children struggle to settle in when they're missing a piece of information that they need. So a good place to start is to think about yourself and think, if I was starting at a brand new job or I was going to a new place that was important, what would I need to know to feel comfortable there? So it might be how long I have to stay. It might be who else will be there. It might be what will the food be like when I get there, particularly for children who have anxiety about different kinds of food. It might be what happens if I get ill there. How will they look after me? And you might find that your child's, to start with the things that you would be worried about, but then I would think around those things, what else might they be worried about? And I think as soon as you identify which pieces of information are not there, or is there a problem with the mood of going into school? And by that, I mean, it doesn't feel exciting when they get there. The key worker doesn't look pleased to see them, those sorts of things. We can change children's perspective on school very quickly by making it feel like a fun and positive place. And if you're lucky enough to have a teacher who is massively pro play and trying to make it feel as fun and experiential as possible, children are going to find getting into that classroom very easy. If you have a more old school teacher or a teacher who isn't really bringing the fun, it might be that you need to sort of like imagine the fun for your child and sort of help them to feel like this positive place is waiting for them. And also speak to the school and say, he isn't excited. How can we make it feel a bit more exciting? I wouldn't say that on the first day, because give your school a chance to get everyone in calmly and quietly and set things up properly before you start sort of rushing in. But my feeling is we're trying to do a few things. We're trying to make it feel like a positive and safe environment, make sure our children know that we really think it's a great place, or we wouldn't be sending them there, helping them set up their best selves by giving them good sleep and good food and good care around going to school, expecting that there's going to be a regular behavior, and trying to make changes that give them information and make school feel like a more positive place. And those things will directly counter the anxiety that they're facing and that you're facing. And I hope that was helpful. And that's that.
That was great. Again, I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions for Saskia. And if not, I'll ask the first one myself, if that's okay. So,
of course,
my son, like I said, oh, hold on, we have a question from Gil. My son will take the school bus by himself. How do I prepare him for that? Thanks, Gil.
So I think I would really talk, like I would firstly, so these children are all 4 or 5, right? That's right. In Scotland, they're mostly 4 and 5 when they start reception. So I think I would try and show him how long it will be. And I might even just ride a normal bus with him and say, it will be very similar to this. Like I do a short bus route, which is like, 3 or 4 stops that will be a similar sort of length for the bus driver to school. And I'd say, it will be pretty similar to this, but the only people on the bus will be friends from your school. And the person driving the bus is probably going to be the same person every day. And they're going to pick you up from the same bus stop and drop you at your school every day. So it's going to be very similar every time. Once you've done it once you've done it twice, you'll know what to expect. Some days it will be loud because the children will be excited. Some days it will be quiet because the children will be exhausted, but it will be very similar every day. Once you've done it once or twice, on the way there and on the way back, you'll know what to expect. So I would do a little bus ride around the corner on a bus near your house. I'd say it's pretty similar to this. And also you can sit with a friend. If you've got a friend coming on the bus, you can sit with your friend. If you don't know anybody, we'll find someone at the bus stop in the morning who will be a good person to sit with you. If it comes from outside your house, I would show them where they'll be getting on. And I would show them it won't be very long. It's a short ride. And the reason we do it is it's the fastest way to get you to school. And I just sort of give a good reason that makes sense. Yeah, so great. So I would just explain. I'd explain. So it's so lucky and so lovely that at this school, they do extra special things after school for children. They've got all the lovely things in the day, all the fabulous things that we love, and even better, they also have a special after school club where children get to do great things. There might be a snack there. They might show a film there. They often do blah, blah, blah there. And I would say, if there's anything there you don't like, it's really easy. I'll just speak to the adults that are in charge. But my guess is that it will just be a fabulous extra thing that they do after school. And I would just make it sound really positive. But I would give them the chance a few days into after school club to let you know if there's been anything that isn't right. So I'd say, like, you haven't been to an after school club before. What's it like? You might ask what's different from after school club than the other things that you do in school. So they might say, well, my teacher isn't there and I miss her, but I do go with my friend Sam and he's really good fun. Okay, well, that's manageable. We've got a manageable feeling about after school clubs. And I'd explain, you're going on the bus in the morning, and then great news, you've got this lovely after school club, and then I'll pick you up after school. So it's just about giving enough information to make it feel like a safe and manageable activity that is age appropriate. I wouldn't say, and you're being picked up at 3:20 and you're going to have 7 sandwiches. Enough that means that they know what's happening, and even that you might ask them to repeat it back to you. So you're going to do after school club, and what did mummy say after school club was going to be like? It's going to be similar to school, but it's going to be in a different place, and there's going to be a snack there, and at the end I get picked up in a car. That's exactly right. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to tell me, I can't wait to see you at the end of the day, and you're going to tell me all the lovely things you did in your classroom and all the lovely things you did in your after school club. and you look like you're not worried about it because it shouldn't be worrying, it should be fab. And you've chosen these schools for a reason. When you walk around them and you met the people and you felt the vibe and you experienced that building, you thought, this is the place I want to send my children. So let them have a chance to be looked after there without you being worried. You chose it for good reason. Maybe it was close to your house. That's a very good reason. Makes everyone's lives much less stressful. You know, if there are things about your school that don't seem perfect, it doesn't mean it isn't the perfect place for your children. And to help your child and help yourself believe the truth, which is you've chosen this school for a reason and they're going to look after them nicely. And if they don't, you'll sort it out, which is just completely true. Either you'll talk to the teacher or you'll make a plan for their sensory needs or whatever it is that comes up. You'll manage it. So you'll say, this is a new place. I think it's going to be fantastic. But anything that doesn't seem right, you'll just tell me and we'll sort it out like we always do. It's a feeling of a confidence in the place that we go, as well as a confidence that if there's something happening, that you'd be the kind of person who could sort it out, which I'm sure is exactly who you are, Nicola. I'm sure exactly that person.
Saskia, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Joanne Whitton. She's a very experienced early year practitioner, and she's got a real passion for emotional literacy and amazing in helping families build really strong emotional foundation. I'm really excited to hear about you as well. So let's hear from you.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm a parent coach. So I'm working directly with parents when they're going through challenges with their children. And actually, a lot of the parents that I see at the moment, their children are school age, and seeing a lot of parents whose children are 4 and 5. You know, they're quite challenged often by being at school, and I really work with the parents to help them through that so that instead of being challenged, they're thriving. And I'd love to just build on some of the things that Saskia and Eilidh have already talked about, and a couple of other things as well that relate to the attachment between us as parents and our children. So Invisible Thread, the name of my business, that's referring to that beautiful attachment that we have with them, and that the teachers will have with them. Okay, and I really want to talk about that because that's going to be really key to helping your children settle at school and be ready to even to play, let alone learn, and the more formal learning that comes later. That will come from the attachment that they have with their teachers and that connection that they have with them, helping them to feel safe, secure, and have a sense of belonging at school. So what to start with? I'm going to go with the fact that when we talk about separation anxiety, okay, so just focusing on the word separation for a minute. When our children go to school, they are physically separated from us. And that can mean that they can struggle to hold on to their attachment with us on a surface level during the day. And the good news is there's loads we can do to help them metaphorically hold on to us during the day. And there's lots that the teachers can do too. And so something really simple is this concept of bridging the separation, the time that we're separated, whether it's at nursery, with a childminder, or at school. Bridging that separation. I'm going to give you some examples of how you can do that. I know Eilidh talked about comforter items not really being ideal. However, if you can give your child a token, something small, it could be a shell or a little picture or a little note in their lunchbox, something that they can just metaphorically hold on to. It's there in their backpack if they want to go and look at it. But it's just from you to them that you can give to them before they set off for the day, before you part ways. That's a really lovely way of bridging from the time that you are separated to the time that you are reconnected. the other thing is actually working with the brain and the imagination to help them put their focus when you leave each other on that point of reconnection. So onto the other side of the bridge. So just something really simple, like when I pick you up, we will do whatever it is, do some drawings together, sit and have a drink together and a cuddle with your teddy. You know, whatever it is, it doesn't need to be something flash. You don't need to go and do something special or buy anything special, but it's like letting them know that you are thinking about when you'll be back together and helping them to visualize themselves there back with you. Okay. Then to strengthen the bridge, when you're at pickup or you're back home and you're doing that thing together, you can say, remember, I said this morning we'd do this, didn't I? And here we are doing it. And it's just strengthening that bridge back and forth. There's other ways that we could bridge as well. This is something that I work on a lot with parents, actually even bridging nighttime separation and strengthening the bridge of nighttime separation can help to prepare them for the daytime separation at school as well. So I often do some specific work around bedtime routines and strengthening that bridge at nighttime. I won't go into that now because of time, but I will say as well, there's some blog articles on my website about all of these things that you can go and access for free. Okay, so I was talking about the attachment that your child will need to have with their teacher and with their teachers, their caregivers, okay? That will develop naturally, for sure, but I think there's a lot that we can do to just set that up for success. And Saskia has talked a lot about that positive PR around the school and around the teacher, and it really is important. And I think I'd go so far as to, like, I know she mentioned photographs, I'd go so far as to have a photo of the teacher on display on the fridge, or create a little chart for the weekly rhythm that they're going to have at school, and put some photos of the school and the teacher on there, and really bring them into your village of attachment. Okay, so that you're talking positively about them, you're seeing them, you're previewing what it's going to be like for them when they're at school in that way. That can really help. But there's actually something else we can do. I'm not sure if you've heard of this one, Eilidh, but where parents and teachers can work together on this to matchmake their child with their teachers. So that matchmaking, it's not just about, romantic love relationships. It's really powerful for helping build the attachment, deepen the attachment with caregivers. So simple way to matchmake would be pointing out some of the sameness between your child and their teacher, and that could just be the hair colour. Something simple, hair colour, eye colour. Do they wear glasses? Eilidh and I have got similar glasses. Obviously, if you can find out a little bit more about the teacher, do they have a pet? What do they like? What hobbies do they like to have? Then you've got more opportunities to matchmake then, if you've got that information. And I think teachers are more than willing to help with that. It's going to make their lives easier as a teacher if this connection is strong. So that's matchmaking. There is a little bit more to it as well. I've referred there to a few things that you can do, at home and when chatting with your child. But it's really, really important that they also see regular communication between you and the teacher. That's where you're keeping any concerns that you might have out of the way. They don't see those. And the same for the teacher, right? Ideally, what you want your child to see is you getting on, talking positively about school, talking positively about the child. And wherever possible, if there's challenges going on at school for the child, I would also be asking the teacher to try and talk to you about those separately, certainly in those initial first few weeks. So they're only hearing this positive interaction, and that they're seeing from you a real confidence that they are the right person to be taking care of your child for you during the school day. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say about that one. Yes, it was because, was it Nicola and Gail, I think it was, where there's going to be a bus involved, so the drop-off isn't going to be as straightforward as at the school gate, handing the baton of attachment over to the teacher. So they might find that they'll need to do a little bit more there to help with that, having some drop-offs where they certainly can go to the school, and yeah, I'd be willing to answer some questions around that in a minute if that's helpful. How am I doing for time? Have I got another 5 minutes? Okay. Okay. There's so many things that we could talk about, isn't there? I'm going to focus a little bit on pickup, on after school. So we hear a lot, don't we, about after school restraint collapse. Have we heard that phrase? And yeah, you know, it can be a real thing, and it can be really, really hard. I help parents to look at the after school behaviours through a lens of understanding about nervous system science, just the basics, but nervous system and attachment, okay? And one of the things that I think is really important to understand is if your child is coming home and very quickly full of emotion and needing to have a cry, and those big fat tears come, actually don't be too quick to think that that's a negative thing, because that is them just showing their vulnerability, which we want to see that after school. Actually, that's a good sign versus a hardening of the heart or a numbness or a withdrawal. And we just want to hold space for that. And Saskia said, you know, hold space for those emotions when they come up. Hold space for that. Be there with them. No need to question them about why they're upset, or just let those tears flow. And by doing that, they will become more resilient, and those tears may lessen. Well, they will lessen as they become more resilient and more used to their new routine. And I just wanted to mention that one. If you are seeing it pick up, I talked about it, you know, they might be a bit withdrawn, but if that can be quite extreme and you're not seeing the usual smiles or the usual warmth from them, or you're not getting eye contact, that's a really big sign that there's a lot of alarm built up in their nervous system as a result of the day at school, and that there's going to be more that you're going to need to do to help them get back into a regulated state. And so again, I'm not going to go into nervous system science too much, but that's the sort of thing that I really help parents work with. And one of the things I will leave you with is one of the most helpful things you can do after school, aside from just being with your child for a little bit before any screens go on or anything like that, just reconnecting. But actually, one of the best things you can do is a nice bit of rough and tumble play. Yeah. So pillow fight, bit of wrestling, you know, bit of push mum off the sofa, push dad over. I don't know. There's so many options for this sort of play, and it does depend on what you're comfortable with as to what type works. You know, if you're not too comfortable with the physical stuff of wrestling and pillow fights, you could just go in for a bit of a snowball fight with some rolled up pairs of socks. You know, you don't have to have all the touch and physical play, but getting them laughing and them having those tears, those are really natural, good ways of releasing tension from the day at school and reconnecting again. deeply, deeply connecting. Really great for attachment. So yeah, I could go on and on, but I will leave it there for now and look forward to any questions.
Right, that was really good. Is there anybody who wants to ask a question to Joe? Let's see if something comes up in the chat. In the meantime, I have a question. So my son struggles a lot with expressing emotions. He's a very fun-loving boy, but he struggles about expressing his emotions, so he tends to hold everything. Do you have any advice to like building his resilience or working through that? Because I do try to get him to talk about things, and like you're absolutely right. After a few laughs, he sort of opens up.
Yes.
But I would like him to do that at school as well with the teachers, like you all said. Like it's important for him to trust the teachers, and to have that connection to them. Is there any advice you might share?
How long have you got? Yes, of course I have. Yeah, I mean, in some of the emotions that you're referring to that he's probably holding on to can feel very, very vulnerable to go there. And so actually anger and aggression is actually one of the easier emotions for us to go to. And I don't know if you're experiencing some of that at home, but I just wanted to shed light on that for parents as well. But some of the more vulnerable things, right, around loneliness, sadness, shame, these vulnerable feelings can be hard for a child to express, and they certainly might not be able to name them at this age. But to help them start to learn the language of the heart, I'd always recommend books and stories and play. Yeah, so there's a beautiful book called The Invisible String that's really, really supportive for school starters. And another one that I love called In My Heart. Can't remember the author's name, sorry, but just Googling In My Heart. Yeah, that's a beautiful one. And of course, here's a question back to you. How do our children learn best about emotional expression?
Well, for my son in particular, again, is through just going through them, and then we'll talk about it later when things have calmed down as well. So
oh yeah,
that and play, obviously, especially what do you call it, when they're like, oh my God, is the words are eluding me right now, but he plays a lot about emotions and just pretend play.
That's how they work through them. So that's wonderful to hear that he's doing that and you're seeing that sort of play. I think it was Eilidh that talked about us as parents being the map of our children. Yeah, and just to elaborate on that a bit more, I think the more that you're open about your emotions and that you have some language that you share with them around your emotions, you allow them to see some sadness sometimes, you allow them, it's okay to be angry sometimes, okay? We're not aiming for calm all the time, just be calm-ish, do you know what I mean? But talking about it, you are the best role model. That's the best way that they will learn.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's the name them to tame them sort of philosophy as well. So to give him the language to sort of understand what he's feeling and what he's going through, and just allowing him to leave them through me as well whenever I'm upset or angry or sad. I do let him see that. But yeah, I might there's it's like you said, we could spend the whole evening talking about all of these things with any of you guys.
We could, but getting there indirectly through stories is a really good way.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there's a time for talking about emotions, and there's a time for not talking about emotions. And if emotions are heightened, they're not going to be in the part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex, where they can hear words or logic or tell you what emotions they're feeling. So certainly it's later on when they're calmer and regulated that they're back in that part of their brain where they can even learn about those things and find words. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. I think if anybody else has questions for Joe, I think we're going to end the session. But I absolutely want to say a huge thank you to all of you brilliant speakers, Eilidh, Saskia, Joanne, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your honesty and your heart. And a huge thank you to all of you who attended today. We hope you're feeling a little more reassured and a little more equipped. I'm sure if you have any more questions, you can pop them in the chat and I will absolutely pass them through to any of our speakers. And if you'd like to stay connected, we have more events. We have resources at work+playhub.com/events. You can drop us a line at hello@work+playhub.com. We'd love to hear from anybody. And thanks again to all of you for joining us. And cheers to beautiful and brave beginnings to all of our little ones and to ourselves as well. Right, it was a pleasure to see you guys. Thank you. Bye.